in the blinds. And it looks like it's going to go Dynasty's way. Nice flop for him. No problems on the turn. So Sakul needs a king to turn this around and doesn't get one. And Dynasty will double up. Almost 14 million in chips and into a clear second place. And Dynasty picks up aces as well. Sakul with king 10 on the button puts the rest of his money in just over 10 big blinds, and Dynasty could well be his nemesis here. All he has to do is flat call with the best hand in No Limit Hold'em, and Circle is in real trouble. Well, it's not easy now, is it? Running cards for a fun outdraw. Well, that's half the job done. Needs another heart on the river to crack the set of aces. It was red, it wasn't a heart. And in a couple of hands, Dynasty will knock out Sakul. The Swedish player finishes fourth. 71,775 buckaroos for him. Three-handed in the million. I can tell you there would be no deal this week. Players playing for just under $200,000 first prize. Huge amount of money, of course. I'm sure you know by now, but just a $215 buy-in in the million. Amazing return. But then they have had to wade through over 6,500 players to get here. It's not easy to do. Dynasty will raise out the small blind. K. Michael will 3-bet with the A7. And this is one of those spots which is not easy. Dynasty is second in chips, so he won't want to do anything too rash and give away a stack to the chip leader. He's also out of position, and he will do something rash. I'm teasing. I'm not saying it's that rash. King Queen may well be ahead of K. Michael's range here. Depends how aggressive K. Michael is. And Dynasty does get him to put down the best hand. I think Dynasty just decided to take a stand there. Just kind of, you know, I'm not going to be pushed around by the chip leader. If you got better than King Queen, so be it. He did have better than King Queen. But K. Michael ends up making the fold, which I think is probably pretty defensible with A7. Couple more aces out there in this hand. Ponga 80 will flat call from the blind. Second time we've seen him do this with an ace-high hand, and it's an interesting flop. As you can see, both players have top pair. Ponga with a nut flush draw. And last time we had the situation, Ponga check raised on the flop. You'd have thought that Dynasty will be hoping that he does that again, having flopped top pair. Well, Dynasty's made pretty much the same continuation bet. And Ponga will make pretty much the same check raise. Now, I can't see Dynasty folding. I guess the only question is whether he flat calls this so that if Ponga's bluffing, he can bluff again on the turn, or whether he just puts the money in now. And he will flat call. I think I like the play. Seen Ponga check raise before. Good chance he could be bluffing. And wants him to fire again if he doesn't have anything. Or even if he has spades, you know now. Ponga thinking about this. 5 million in the middle. Just about, well, a little bit more than a pot-sized bet left. And he'll make a small bet. Now, what's Dynasty's plan? Is he just going to let Ponga keep firing because he's bluffing some of the time? Or does he put the money in now? It's option B. Puts the money in now. Wants to try and get Ponga to put it in with a worse hand. He is going to get his wish. Lots of cards on the river could change things. Dynasty in control right now. Ponga needing to pull a card, and he does. Well, that's rough on Dynasty. Not that Ponga did anything wrong in that hand, of course, but a cruel blow for Dynasty. A big pot for Ponga 80, and they'll swap places in the chip standings. Dynasty now the short stack, as we played 250,000, 500,000 blinds. K. Michael, who's had 30 odd million chips for a little while now, doesn't need to get involved, but Ponga 80 does get involved. And once again, Dynasty will go to war with the better ace. Can it hold up this time and have them swap around again? Well, no change on the flop. But there is a change on the turn. Ponga catching the 8. And Dynasty is going to be out this tournament. He is. Couple of cruel hands in a row back to back. Ponga 80, his nemesis, takes the money. Dynasty will finish third. And we will be heads up in the million.
Growing up on the circuit, everyone wanted to offer me advice. When to bet, when to fold, when to raise, what to wear, what to eat. But there was one piece of advice that took me to a new level.
Daniel, don't do anything stupid.
At PokerStars.com, there's a tournament starting every second. Develop your game at the world's largest poker site.
We'd love you to get a seat in the million for free. The best price in the world. Our free roll takes place on the 18th, 3:35 Eastern Time. The password is Duthie. D-U-T-H-I-E. Someone's going to get a free shot at the Sunday Million. These two have got a shot at huge money in the million. K. Michael 14 has been in charge of this final table for most of it. Ponga 80 was a little bit short stat, but has been on a tear lately. And after eliminating Dynasty, the chips are actually pretty close. Playing for a lot of money, these two. K. Michael from the Russian Federation and Ponga from Canada. Difference between first and second of over $50,000. Second place, $146,000 locked up for both of them, which is a pretty nice situation to be in. And we'll see some aggression early on in this heads-up match. Ponga 83 betting pocket tens. And K. Michael, well, setting out his stall straight away. 4-bet bluff with the 10-4. Ponga's very strong here. He's thinking about this, but I think it would be a surprise if his money didn't go in. And there you go. Pulls the trigger, and K. Michael finds out that his timing is not the best on this occasion. This is the saving face think. The I promise I wasn't doing it to you with nothing dwell up. But he does eventually fold, and that gives us a new chip leader. First time in a long time at this final table. K. Michael no longer in front. Ponga 80 takes the chip lead. We'll watch hand 82. As Ponga has a real hand again, this time on the button. K. Michael with the 3-bet. Well, Ponga is thinking, I think we'll see him call here. I mean, too strong of a hand to fold, and 4-betting gets him into trouble when K. Michael has a big hand. So, yeah, he does flat call. And a very dry flop, which is going to make things interesting. Just a question of how K. Michael plays it. He decides to check, which is interesting. Ponga 80 will check back. And we'll go to the turn. Ponga 80 picks up the club draw. We can see he doesn't need that draw to come in. K. Michael actually has a gut shot here. A jack would give him that. And how does he read Ponga's check on the flop? Does he think he can steal this pot now? 5 million in it. And he will at least have one try at stealing it. Pretty quick call from Ponga. It'll get interesting if the club doesn't come. Oh, it does come. So Ponga makes the nut flush and won't be going anywhere. Would be interesting if that hadn't been a club and K. Michael had fired again. K. Michael now makes 10s and 2s. and maybe happy to get to showdown here. Now he does check. We know there will be no free cards on the river. Ponga 80 trying to figure out what he can get paid. 9 million in the middle. And he'll bet half of it, 4.5 million. And K. Michael does have a pair. I would have thought he could get away from this. I mean, is Ponga calling the turn to then turn something into a bluff on the river? You know, is he calling the turn with pocket sevens to then turn it into a bluff on the river? Is he that kind of player? K. Michael doesn't think so. I think it's a pretty good read. And does make a solid fold. Ponga 80, those hitting cards, and is a decent-sized chip leader right now. And 87, both players have aces. Pretty deep stack, though, so no all-in pre-flop. We did get to the heads-up a little bit quicker than we do sometimes in the million, so a little bit more play, perhaps, than there always is. Ace on the flop makes this interesting. Great spot for K. Michael, who has Ponga 80 dominated in this one. Well, we've seen Ponga check raise flops when he doesn't have it and when he does. Let's see if there's any change in the heads-up match or if he's going to stick to form. He is going to pull off the check raise move. Okay, Michael has a similar decision to Dynasty in that previous pot. Does he decide to try and get money in now, or does he flat call knowing he almost always has the best hand and can get more money if Ponga bluffs it? Well, he's going to make a small 4-bet, which is interesting. Just clicks it back, more or less. And Ponga 80 will call. So K. Michael with the last raise on the flop. And that's a card that might well slow this down. After Ponga check raises and calls the 4-bet on the flop, K. Michael must be slightly worried that flush draws form a decent part of his range. He does have the 9 of clubs himself. He'll just decide to keep firing here. 3.5 million into the 9 million chip pot. Ponga with the ace high, bad kicker. Must now be worried about his hand. That's why that's a bad card for K. Michael, because it's harder to get lots of value from Ponga after there was so much action on the flop. Ponga would have already been slightly worried about K. Michael's hand, but he's not going anywhere. He does call. Perhaps K. Michael knows his player here. Jack of spades on the river doesn't change the fact that K. Michael's ace-9 will still play. Just. But it does. And decides not to value bet the river. Made the decision quite quickly. Anyway, the 9 will play. Big pot for K. Michael, and it reverses the chip lead again. He's now in front. A little bit of back and forth in this heads-up match. Nice to see an elongated heads-up match at the end of the million. Don't always get to see this. K. Michael opens the button, and Ponga, again with a real hand, will 3-bet. Makes it 3 million. And K. Michael will 4-bet. This is the second time we've seen him try it, and I think the second time that he's going to get shoved on. Yeah, Ponga doesn't take too much time. He shoves. And once again, K. Michael probably have to fold. And this is where heads up starts to get difficult, because we can see the card, so we know that Ponga has it every time this betting sequence happens. But K. Michael won't know that. He won't know if his opponent suddenly turned into a, over-aggressive maniac or a soul-reading poker god who knows when he doesn't have it. It's very hard not to second-guess yourself when things aren't going your way at this game, especially heads up. Okay, Michael not relenting on the aggression though, and Ponga 80 not relenting on the picking up the good starting hands, which is a neat trick to have.